Hey everyone, welcome to the Hornet King channel, and in this video I'll be removing a massive German yellow jacket colony that decided to make its nest inside of a client's garage. This nest was absolutely massive. It was one of the largest populations of yellow jackets that I removed from someone's house this season. It had over 7,000 yellow jackets inside, and I know that because I counted how many yellow jackets were inside my vacuum at the end of the removal, and I show that at the end of this video. I bring the nest home and I feed it to my emus, my Rhea, my chickens, and my squirrel.
Oh, what a good squirrel. What a good squirrel.
Here's the video, check it out.
I'm the Hornet King, and I removed some incredible and insane wasp nests.
All right, as you can see, we got a yellow jacket problem in the soffit. So I've already popped open the soffit to see what was happening, and there's millions of them now. So, all right, let's get started.
So there's 120 different species of yellow jackets worldwide, and this particular species is Vespula germanica-anthic. There's two different suborders of German yellow jacket. There's Vespula germanica-anthic and Vespula germanica-melanic. Now, the one that I'm dealing with here is anthic, and they are the lesser aggressive of the two species. Most of the time when people do Vespula germanica melanic, they will mistake them for the western yellow jacket or vice versa. So this one's a little bit easier to identify. I'll put up an image of both of the two different abdomens of the two different German yellow jacket, that way you guys can see the difference between the two. So anyway, usually when I do a removal like this, when it's up inside soffit, when our houses are constructed up here in North America, soffit is actually placed below a space, so that way that the air can transfer between the space and usually like a ridge vent, like if it's in an attic or something. When it's in a situation like this where it's a bi-level, the soffit is supposed to have plywood above it. So the soffit's just supposed to be decorative. But when builders cut corners, they don't put plywood underneath, and they just put the soffit there and just assuming that's going to be fine. And then they stuff the flooring joists with insulation, and then they think that's going to be good enough. Unfortunately, that allows pests to get in, and in this case, it let yellow jackets in. So once a queen goes into the corrugation of the soffit, she gets above where the plywood's supposed to block her from being able to get in there, and she gets in between the flooring joists, and she starts building a nest. That nest starts out as one little bit of comb, usually about 5 cells. And then she'll start laying eggs in there. She'll fly out, she'll do all the foraging, she goes catch all the bugs, she brings them back, feeds them to her larvae, and then that nest starts growing exponentially. And then once her daughters start hatching, they start doing all the bidding. They start going out and doing all the foraging, catching all the bugs, collecting all the building material by chewing on fence posts and things to make the paper, and then they come back and start using that to start building the nest further. After about a month's time, the queen no longer leaves the nest, and she starts staying in there, and her sole purpose becomes laying eggs. So oftentimes people will say to me like, oh, well, how about you just remove the queen? Did you get the queen out? Well, the queen is just another part of the colony. It's not like honeybees where the queen is like the matriarch and she's paramount in the colony, and if you remove her from the nest, the colony will collapse. That's not the same with yellow jackets. The yellow jacket queen is just another part of the colony. I could go into this colony and pull the queen out and kill her, and these yellow jackets would just continue on doing exactly the same thing as if she was still there. The only difference is no more worker eggs would be laid, so therefore no more workers would develop. The workers themselves will start laying eggs kind of arbitrarily, which become males. So in the case with yellow jackets, you want to get the entire colony out. You want to get the nest out. You want to get all the larvae. You want to get as many of the workers as possible, so that way they don't continue building in that space. So once you remove the colony itself, any lingering foragers and things will pretty much die within about a week's time. So what I have to do here is once I expose a space, there's a bunch of yellow jackets that leave. They come after me, they attack me. They are not leaving to go and start a new nest somewhere like some people will think. They are leaving the space to attack, swarm, and then they go back to the nest. So I'm not worried about catching the ones that are swarming around behind me. I'm just trying to vacuum up as many as I can from the space and right here at the entranceway that they were using to get into that space. So they'll be kind of swarming around, coming back and forth, and people think that I'm not getting any, but it's actually the amount of activity you're seeing behind me isn't the ones that have just left the space. They're ones coming back from foraging and be like, oh, what's going on here? WTF. There's a pheromone, alarm pheromone going around right now, and it makes them all crazy. And they start kind of just like swarming around because they don't know what else to do. Any of these shots where the camera goes behind me and you can see me, you notice that none of them are on me. They're not stinging me. They're not attacking me. They're literally just swarming around. And that's the nice thing about Vespula germanica-anthic, is because they're not super aggressive. If they were southern yellow jackets, Vespula squirmosa, they would be all over me. They'd be latched on. They'd be all over my gloves. They'd be all over my head, my veil. They'd be nuts. But with Vespula germanica-anthic, they're not that way. They pretty much just swarm around. If I put my hand into the nest, yeah, I'll get a few on my glove. They will try to sting my glove. But they're not trying to constantly get at me. So you'll see here, they'll be coming back in waves. And there were just tons of them, thousands of them. So as the foragers come back from foraging, they hit that pheromone, alarm pheromone, and they're like, oh, we're swarming. We're trying to, protect the colony, or, something's amiss. So that's what they're doing. They're swarming around and basically just kind of waiting their turn to get back into the original entranceway. Even though I have the soffit pulled down and you can see the nest, most of them are still trying to get into the original entranceway to my right where the soffit's still in place. So that's why I just keep putting the camera back over and putting my nozzle there, and I'm catching like 50 of them within like a few seconds because they're just coming back in waves, and then they're getting sucked up, and then new ones are coming back in waves, and then they're getting sucked up. So it's a process that I have to do every time I do a Vespula germanica colony, either of the suborder, because they both kind of behave similarly. There's so many inside the colony that I have to do the same process over and over and over again. I go into the space, vacuum up some off the comb, then I move back out to where the foragers are coming back, and I'll vacuum them up a ton, and then I'll go back to the space and vacuum more there. So unfortunately, it is a process. It's a process that I have to do to remove a colony like this that's this active and this productive. As you can see in some of these shots, you'll see like that little hanging thing from the bottom of the soffit. The client had actually hung a yellow jacket trap you can get at the hardware store to try to trap some yellow jackets. And I think she got 5 in there. So you think about how many thousands are inside this colony. She caught 5 of them. So she was off to a roaring start. So oftentimes people will ask me too, is there any way to deter these nests? Well, once there's a nest already in the space, there's nothing you can do to deter them. They're not territorial. They're defensive of the immediate space of their colony. That's it. So if you hang something from outside, that's not going to deter them. It's not going to scare them away. They're going to carry on as business as usual. So what you have to do is remove the nest. You have to remove the nest out of the space. And that's the only way you're going to stop seeing the activity. Some folks will say to me, well, how come you don't just dust at the entranceway? If someone were to come in here and dust at this soffit, that would have never killed this nest. It may have killed some foragers, but the foragers would find another way in to where they're not being affected by the dust. Someone would have came out here and dusted about 20 times, and it would have never treated this colony. That's why pesticides have their place. Some people, will use pesticides to dust, like if they're inside of a block core, something that you can't really cut into without compromising the structural integrity of a structure. You can use the dust. Obviously, that has its place. But in an instance like this, where all I have to do is pull down the soffit without damaging it, I can pull the nest out, vacuum everybody up, and then put the soffit back up like nothing ever happened. That's what you want to do. It's completely ideal and paramount to get the nest out. The next step would be, if you can't get the nest out, is then to use some kind of pesticide. But I don't do that unless it's like an absolute necessity. So, as I've been talking, there are a ton of yellow jackets still here. So any shots that you see from behind me, it looks like I've made a very small dent. Like the population isn't quite as thick coming behind me from foraging. But I could be here for hours vacuuming up, even after the colony, even after the forager swarm behind me has slowed down significantly. Even if there was none here for about 10 minutes, me vacuuming, I would still, if I waited here for another probably 45 minutes, there would be another like 50 that I could vacuum up. So You could be here all day, vacuuming, but the best thing to do is to get the majority of the colony, majority of the foragers, pull the nest down, clean out the inside of the space, and then button everything back up, and then just leave it go, and then they're going to die naturally on their own. They cannot survive without the colony. So a misconception I get a lot in the comments is people will say, well, any of the ones that are flying out, you're missing them, and they're going to fly off and start their own colony. And that's not true. The foragers are sterile females. They cannot mate, and they can lay eggs, but their eggs only become male. So unfertilized eggs become male. Fertilized eggs from a queen become female workers. So without the female workers, there's no one to go out and do any kind of foraging and things. So even just say for the sake of argument that a female worker started building a nest on her own, it would not be a productive nest. She would not have any workers hatch from that nest. They would be able to go out and do any foraging, catching bugs, and in keeping the nest going. They would all hatch out would be males, and males don't do anything in the colony. Typical, right? So the ones that are swarming around behind me, they're not going off to find a new place to live. They don't join other colonies. They don't do anything. They're solely dedicated to this colony. This is all they know. This is their only home. So they won't go off and fly somewhere else. So just to debunk that misconception I get a lot in the comments. So when they're swarming like that, they're literally leaving this space to attack me. They swarm around me, and then they come back to the space. So if I were to just button everything back up right after disturbing the nest and walk away, that whole colony would settle back down and carry on business as usual within about 45 minutes. So it's not changing anything about the colony structure. So what I do is I disturb the nest, start pulling the nest out, and then I vacuum up right there at the entranceway as the foragers come back, and then they get sucked up. It's another reason why I try not to disturb the entranceway that they originally were using too much, because the more you disturb it, the more they're going to be apprehensive about flying back to that spot. So that's why I kept some of the soffit up, because that's an area that they're using as a target, a visual target for them to go back to. If I don't disturb it, they're going to go right back to that spot so I can suck them all up. So at this stage here, I'm getting ready to pull the nest out. Now it is still filled with tons of yellow jackets. So I've been vacuuming up mainly foragers and ones that have been swarming. But there's still a ton of yellow jackets in between the layers of comb. I don't want to disturb that too much. If I start taking that apart within that space, they are going to go swarm all over the place, and then I'll have to vacuum them up. So I'd rather keep them in between the layers if I can help it. So even though I'm pulling the nest out, I am trying to be kind of delicate to not jostle it too much so there's not a bunch of them trying to leave the comb. But even while the nest is sitting here, a lot of the ones that are swarming, even though that the nest initially was up inside that cavity, some of them can sense that comb. So they'll fly down to land on it, and then they'll crawl between the layers even though it's outside. You'll see a lot of them coming in here, and they're landing on the inner layers of this envelope, and then they're trying to hide underneath of it, looking for the comb. So there's the comb. It's bigger than my head. And that's saying something, because I got a big head. So there's quite a few in there. You'll see them kind of like even someone might be landing on it or whatever. But that is a lot of envelope, or that is a lot of comb, and that was super, super dense. It was very, very heavy. I think it was like 7 pounds. So just bagging everything up. And I get asked too in the comments, why do I use the bags instead of the containers like I used to use? The bags are just more convenient to be able to stuff in my car between removals. So I reuse a lot of these bags. The only ones I don't reuse are any ones that get punctured. But for the most part, I'm able to reuse bags over and over and over again as long as they're not compromised. So you can see, even though I've been vacuuming for about 40 minutes, there's still a bunch floating around here. So I do just kind of like take the vacuum and I suck up as much of this envelope and get the space cleaned out. And then once all the envelope is pretty much cleaned up and most of the queens are cleaned up out of there, because you'll notice inside of there's a lot of queens and a lot of males, and they kind of like just try to hide. They try to hide in the insulation and things. I spray a little bit of spider and scorpion spray at the end of the soffit, so that way that ones that aren't trying to get past the vacuum nozzle, they're not, entering down further. So I'll spray that more as a deterrent to keep them to try to enter closer to the vacuum nozzle, so that way I can suck them right up. I sprayed inside the space as well, and that just causes like a mass exodus. Any ones that are in between, any little nooks and crannies, they're going to try to come out. So that's where you'll start seeing them like crawling out from behind the insulation. You'll see them crawling up from the block wall underneath, and they'll be trying to get out of the space. And then I just take the vacuum and just kind of suck them up some more. You're never going to get all of them. So it's not like I stay here until I don't see any. I just stay here until I know that the colony is not going to survive. Any ones coming back from foraging are not going to be able to survive. So I just kind of stay here, have my vacuum nozzle. This is obviously sped up. Keep my vacuum nozzle in the same spot, and ones will just keep coming back, and they'll keep going, getting sucked up, and then occasionally I'll spray inside that space. And then again, any ones try to creep out of there, then I'll suck them up too. But I can't stay here all day. I got about 9 appointments in a day, and usually separated by about 40-minute drive time. So as much as I like to be able to stay here and get every single one of them, that's just not feasible and realistic. So I stuff the cavity back up with the insulation, and then I usually spray a little bit of spider and scorpion spray around it on the gaps. And then put the soffit back in place, so that way it doesn't look like I was ever there. And the client knows, and I discussed this with them before I even come out, that even when I'm done, you're going to see a few floating around. That's normal. And in this case, I'll just keep vacuuming till I'm done buttoning everything back up. And then I'll spray spider and scorpion spray along the corrugation where they've been entering all summer. And then that will just keep them from trying to go back into that spot. So this removal took me about an hour total. Oftentimes people comment and say, oh, you do this you're vacuuming all day at one spot. It's like, no, not all day. About an hour. That's the most. So you can see that the colony, or you can see that the swarming has diminished significantly. Not nearly as many as there were. So you got to take the nest home.
Come along, birdie.
I got something good for you. Come on.
Man, let me open up this bag.
Yeah, birdie. Nice birdie. Nice birdie.
Yes, I've reused these bags.
Oh, Rhea the Rhea. Go, birdie.
Lots of queens in here.
Hello, baby.
There's a queen there. Lots of queens in this colony.
Oh, Rhea the Rhea.
Not really something I wanted to get on my fingers first thing this morning, but
Oh, Rhea.
oh, enjoy, birdies. I gotta get the removals. You gotta lay an egg? Go lay an egg. Go ahead, go lay that egg. She's so fat, she can barely fit through that door anymore.
Oh, Rhea. Hello, honey. Hello, honey. Enjoy the feast. Booty booties. Booty booties. Oh, Rhea.
Alright, so I'm going to bag up everything that's in the vacuum and put it in my freezer. It'll kill everything, and that way I can count them. It's really hard to do without losing a bunch of them. Alright, so I get asked all the time how many yellow jackets or hornets are in a particular colony that I'm removing out of a particular nest. And I always just kind of guesstimate anywhere from like 900 to 2,500, sometimes 3,500 if there seems like a lot. And I get a lot of people who are skeptical about the numbers that I calculate or I guesstimate. So I'm going to use this colony that I'm going to use this colony that I just vacuumed out of somebody's house. Now, I didn't get all the yellow jackets out of the space. Some of them were too hard to reach, so I had to spray up inside of there. Not to mention that the nest that I put out for my birds to eat, that there were still some yellow jackets on the nest. There were still ones that were going to be hatching out. There was a lot of larvae, which are going to be potential wasps. So this is just the numbers that I vacuumed up. So I'm going to get counting, and you're going to see me count it. So I'm not going to do this all in one shot. I'm going to be splitting it up just because I only have like 32 minutes left on this video. Yeah, I'll dump everything out. I'm putting it on this glass. This is actually from my computer. There's some nice glass. Oh my god, this is going to take forever. And there's still a lot in here. There's still a lot in this bag. I'm going to do this a little bit at a time. If anybody starts warming up, I'll have to pause and put them back in the freezer. So I got my little bucket here. But this is all mainly yellow jackets. There's obviously some other debris in here, nest material and such. But I'm only interested in the yellow jackets themselves. So let's get counting. 2, 3, 4, 99, 100. So right there, that is 100 yellow jackets. Think about how big this pile is, and that's not even all of them. There's more in the bag, plus there's more that I missed, plus there's some in the nest. So this is going to be a long count. Here we go. 100, 101, 102, 103, 4, 5, 8, 99, 200. All right, so there's 200 yellow jackets there. 200 yellow jackets, that's all there is compared to that, which is I haven't counted yet. 99, 300. 300 yellow jackets there. 98, 99, 500.
500 yellow jackets. My guess, that's 500, and there's all this and that in the bag. It's over 3,000. That's my guess. Here we go. Nine, 1,000. That's 1,000 yellow jackets right there. So this is 2,000 yellow jackets, and obviously I still have all this to do, and I still have the other bag. I put it back in the freezer because they started to get a little bit buzzy. So that's where we're at, 2,000. I'll keep you posted. All right, so now I'm up to 2,843. I'm going to add more to the pile now. Oh my God, what's the count? So this is about 2,800 yellow jackets in here. It's a lot. I'll put them in the refrigerator, freezer. I'm so over counting these already. All right, so that's 2,900. Bam. All right, so I'm up to 4,400 yellow jackets. I got one bag in the refrigerator. This is my second bowl. And this is the last bit that I dumped out of that bag. So I'm almost done. This has been just, oh my God, I'm so bored doing this. I mean, it's very interesting to see this because usually what I tell folks is about 2,500. I never would have thought I would have gotten up to this many. So I'm just going to keep counting. 4, 5, 6, 9, 100. So that's 4,500 yellow jackets so far. I've marked it on my floor. 4,500. Just to give you an idea. This is my tally. This floor is getting covered up. This is in my makeshift studio right now that I will be adding drywall and stuff to. So, yeah, let's keep going. Okay. I'm really over this, to be completely honest. 1, 2, 8, 99, 100. 4,600 yellow jackets. 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. That makes it 4,800 yellow jackets so far. You might be over $5,000 in this. Oh, look at this little guy in there trying to get away. 1, 2, 99, 100. 4,900. That's 4,900. 1, 2, 3, 99, 100. All right. So that is. That says 5. It's 5,000. Okay, let's keep going. One, 2. That's 5,100 yellow jackets so far. So that's 5,200. Oh my God! So it's 5,200. 1, 2, 17. So 5,217 yellow jackets in this vacuum. Holy crap. Okay, gonna add it to the bag. This is a lot. I don't know how many we're in here. I'm just gonna dump this in. This here is 5,217 yellow jackets. All right, so 5,217 yellow jackets from the vacuum. Well, actually, there's 2 more. I missed these 2. So 5,219 yellow jackets that were inside the vacuum. So this is not including the yellow jackets that would be out foraging that would come back after I left, and would be hovering around that area. It also doesn't include any of the yellow jackets that would remain in the space after I sprayed in there and then buttoned everything back up. Those ones weren't counted, obviously. And then all of the yellow jackets that were on the comb and in between the comb layers that you saw me when I dropped them out for the birds, those ones aren't counted either. Not to mention all the larvae and all the pupating adults, which would also be considered part of the colony and a part of the population. None of those were counted. So you have to consider there's probably maybe double of how many I found in here. So it could be 10,000 yellow jackets in this colony. Who knows? But for me, it gives me a better idea as to how many yellow jackets can be in a really successful colony. So I can convey that to you folks. I can also convey that to my clients as well. So I just thought this was really interesting. I hated counting them all. That was really tedious. I am left with all this paper that I get to put in my wood stove and to make a little fire. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think I should do with all these yellow jackets. I just had them in my freezer. So I don't know. Maybe I should sell them. Do you guys want any yellow jackets? Drop in the comments if you want some yellow jackets. I got a lot of queens in here, some males in here, obviously a lot of workers. So I don't know. Drop in the comments what do you guys think I should do with all these yellow jackets. Maybe I should just toss them out and let them decompose. Who knows? But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in to check out this video. If you guys enjoyed this content, drop in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions for future videos or anything like to see me cover in an upcoming video, also let me know. My plan is to bring out my European Hornet relocation video because I have been taking shots and video all summer that I have not been sharing with you guys, just so I could do like a finale of the relocation of the European Hornet colony inside the plexiglass box. So that nest is pretty much wrapped up for the season. So if I take it down this week and I take it apart so that way you guys can see inside of it, then I'll do that video for next week. I have tons of relocation videos. I have bald-faced hornet nest relocation videos. I have the Vespula flavipulosa, which is a really rare yellow jacket species around here. I don't see them very much. Not necessarily rare around here, but it's rare for me to find them and remove them. So I have those that I put in a plexiglass box to replicate them going into the ground. So that's really interesting to see. I have that one. I also have a lot of removals. I have ground nest removals. I have bald-faced hornet nest removals. I have German yellow jacket nest removals. I have all kinds of cutouts. So let me know what you guys want to see next, because I'd like to get what you want to see. Doesn't matter what I want to post. What you guys want to see. Get it? All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to check out this video and supporting my channel, and I'll catch you on the next video.